All right, hello friends. Welcome to Trending. Today is Thursday, September 15th. And you just never know what you're going to get when you tune into Trending. Last week we tried the whole reel thing where we did the whole show in 90 seconds. We're back on Zoom today. We're just trying things out. Every week we're just throwing noodles at the wall, seeing what sticks, right? So, hey, Joe, thanks for joining me from right over there.
Yeah, man. I could there's like a reverb, like I can hear your voice but like it's on a delay. But
Yes.
like whenever our offices are renovating stuff, I don't know if you know this, like this might be breaking news to you, but I'm actually moving one office over.
Yes.
So we need to kind of go with the whole like string and a can thing, but like fish it through this office to your office. Do you think I and Stephanie would be cool with that?
I think they wouldn't mind. We'll figure something out.
They seem cool with it. So, anyways.
That's awesome. Okay, so yeah, for those of you Ridgepoint people, our offices are still under construction. The studio where we usually record stuff is kind of in ruin as we are moving stuff. And so we're just doing the best we can with what we've got these days. And so thanks for joining us for a Zoom episode. So we heard from several of you last week that you liked the really short 90-second deal, but you kind of missed the longer conversation. But I've also heard that some people don't really want to watch a whole 25 minutes, which I totally understand. So our goal today is to be somewhere between 90 seconds and 25 minutes. And I think that's going to be a pretty safe goal. So, You ready,
Right.
Joe? We got 4 topics today. You ready?
Before we jump in, like I guess
Yeah.
like in the comment section or like I don't know, post aside at Sunday, like would people be into like I don't know shorter videos throughout the week instead of like all at once? I don't know. Like obviously we're taking notes from y'all. We're here for you, man. Within reason. I guess I would say
Yes.
we're here for you. So, anyways, all right. Without further ado, 4 topics. Go right ahead, man.
Yeah, let us know. Short, long, let us know what you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do 2 kind of hard and fast things at the beginning here. Then we're going to spend some time on the last 2. So
Okay.
first up, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I was pulling things together just a few minutes ago. And the breaking news this morning is that Roger Federer is retiring.
Oh man.
We were just talking about Serena Williams not too long ago. And so now Roger's joining the ranks of one of the all-time GOATs, hanging it up. So again, I don't really follow tennis, Joe, but I feel like he's one of those guys where if you follow sports at all, you know his name. I think he won something like 20 championships. He's been very good for a very long time. So any
Yeah.
thoughts on Roger Federer?
No, but it just seems, I mean, he's had a great career. He and Nadal kind of were like the guys going at it head to head and like the different services. One was better than the other. And it seems like Nadal is getting hurt and is not as durable. But it just seems like there's like a wholesale changing of the guard in the tennis world, right? Men's and women's side. Like there's just a reshuffling. Had some couple of young prospects do well at the U.S. Open last week, or at least the tournament concluded last week. So, yeah, it just seems like there's quite the changeover. It's a different sport, like than some of the other sports that Americans probably follow, where there's like a draft and you can kind of see it coming. And so we're not as all dialed into tennis like we are at other sports. So it is kind of startling to see some of these big names stepping away. But he's had a great career, so all the power to him. I mean, Roger tunes in. I mean, he told me like every week. So, man, we're so happy for you. And we'll send you some Grubhub or something like that, celebrate with you.
I love it. All right. Well, congrats to Roger on a great career. I'm sure he's watching. Roger, let us know if you want a 90-second or 25-minute version. So he's retired. He's retired now. He's got all the time in the world.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, number 2 on the kind of quick ones here. So I also wanted to bring up Ethereum. So you and I have talked about cryptocurrency a few times. Ethereum is the number 2 most valuable cryptocurrency behind Bitcoin. They're making news today because one of the kind of the beefs or kind of the downside to cryptocurrency is it takes a lot of power. Like it's complicated, but basically for the computers to kind of mine this money, there's just tons of computers always running. So it takes a lot of electricity. It's not very like eco-friendly for all these computers. So the crypto has been crashing lately. All of them have not been performing very well. The value has just tanked. And so I think they realized they needed to do something. So Ethereum is changing how they operate. And so they claim that it's going to be 99% more eco-friendly, better for the climate after they make the changes on how these servers are going to do this mining. So I barely understand it, but I guess it's a good thing they're working on that. I suppose it'll be interesting to see if the cryptocurrencies kind of bounce back after announcements like this. But what do you think about that, Joe? Do you have any Ethereum?
I don't. Not even any. Like, didn't you get some like crypto gifted to you? Like,
Yes, I was gifted $10 of Bitcoin, and it's currently worth $4. So it has,
oh,
yeah.
you can't even get a meal at Chick-fil-A for that. No, and I guess I'm just kind of waiting for like the first like wedding that officiate that they pay the honorarium in Bitcoin. Like I've never, I don't know. I think I'm still trying to understand it all. I even did like a little tutorial, like a slide by slide description of it. I'm still a bit unawares. So for those of you who are into crypto, you're probably laughing your faces off that we're even talking about this. But I just think it's kind of cool that they are making this development. I think every industry develops and changes and evolves over time. And so this seems to make sense with the people that they're trying to attract into the crypto world, younger audience, perhaps that climate change seems to be a issue higher on their list than maybe other generations. And so this could be all a marketing ploy, but hopefully it works out for them and their technology and that they can run more smoothly and leave a smaller carbon footprint. I think it'd be good. So good for them.
Yeah. I think it is a good thing. We'll see if it actually ends up any more people investing or not. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see. Okay, so just two kind of just fun things I wanted to breeze through quickly, but then we've got two I really want to get your take on this morning, Joe. So
All right.
one of the top stories this morning is Adnan Syed. So if you are a podcast listener, that name might sound familiar. So I think it's New York Times, NPR, they were both involved together, I think, with one of the very first podcasts that was just giant was called Serial. It came out several years ago, and it's followed the story of this murder investigation where this guy named Adnan Syed went to prison for murder. But after some reporting, they found out that the evidence was pretty sketchy at best. He probably didn't get a very fair trial. And so this podcast kind of went through some evidence. He's still in prison for a crime that was committed in 1999. But again, a lot of people think that he was innocent. So today news broke that that trial might be going back to trial. They're trying to vacate the former the ruling that came through the court system. So there's a chance that Adnan might get another trial. If you listen to Serial, it seems like Adnan he's a very likable guy. The crew who did the podcast did a really good job finding a lot of evidence that wasn't in trial. So it's a very compelling story that I think a lot of people were really drawn into. So I think a lot of people will be glad to hear he might be getting a second chance. And so, Joe, just a couple of things to toss to you. So I did a little bit of research. There's this really cool group out there called the Innocence Project, where they look for cases where people maybe were wrongfully convicted for various crimes. The stats range somewhere between 1% and 5% of people who go to prison are wrongfully convicted. So obviously not a huge percentage, but that's still a lot of people in our criminal system who are going to jail for crimes they didn't commit. And so when you hear that, Joe, like what are some of the first things that go through your mind as far as like, justice? And again, I don't want to talk too long here, but another thing that we've spent a lot of time talking about is one of the dangers of our current society is I think a lot of us will read one, 2-minute article somewhere, and then we think that we're an expert on something that's really complicated, right?
Yeah.
And that leads to some problems in our modern society. But then there's things like this where, the police and the justice system, at least maybe put this guy in prison for nothing. And, a podcaster uncovered some new details that might save this guy's life. And so on one hand, I'm like, let the professionals do their job, right? We're just citizens. Let the experts do their jobs. But on the other hand, I'm like, man, like I want this. If he's innocent, I want this guy to have a second chance. So I'm throwing a lot at you, Joe. Innocence Project, justice. When do we let the experts do their jobs? What's at the top of your mind this morning?
I guess three things. Number one, Serial as a podcast. I think that really contribute to the podcast industry as a whole. I think Serial was captivating. I think you may have been the one who told me about it years ago. I think you sent it my direction. Like we had coffee catching up. You're like, yeah, you need to listen to Serial. And I remember being in the gym and totally forgetting what I was doing, like what exercise I was going to do next while listening to Serial. Like it was really quite captivating. I think my dad continues to only listen to season 1 of Serial. Like they've done other seasons and there's been other offshoots from Sarah Koenig and that group. And he just continues to re-listen over and over again. So there's a running joke around our house or around our family, like dad's still, holding out for this guy to be innocent. Right. I think another thing too, is just I don't know, the complex idea of work. We all make mistakes in our professional careers. You and I making a mistake in some of the stuff we do in church world doesn't have the bearing and the effects, the cascading effects of like the justice system, right? And so we all have a margin where maybe not as attentive, or maybe we have a bias in trying to get stuff done, and we make mistakes. And so it's just, I don't know. I was listening to one of my lawyer friends. He said there's even a difference between like a civil trial and a criminal trial, and the burden of proof is so heavy because you're not just talking about like, financial repercussions for a civil suit, but you're talking about like taking someone and taking away their freedoms and putting them in a prison cell, and that's, so the burden of proof has to be higher. And so I think something like that has to be scrutinized, right? But I think also we aren't experts. People who go to school for this for many years, and they do this for many years of practice, like they develop a expertise over time. And so we have to be careful. But I think it does highlight just how interesting of a topic justice is. I think MLK Jr. said that justice denied anywhere is justice denied everywhere. So like justice, we might think is just between like the offending party and the offenders, and like maybe the people put in place to help, reconcile all that. But there is a sense where there's like a spectating piece of justice, because if it is denied somewhere, like it does like cast a shadow over all of us. Like we can be prone to some sort of fear that maybe we'll be mistreated if justice is denied by somebody. And so I think that there is this, I don't know, fine line between how much can we like really contribute to something that didn't include us, right? And so I think that we have to, I think that does inform the public, but also I think it also does put some maybe undue pressure on people. There's actually a really cool episode of Black Mirror, and I know that that's a controversial TV show. Okay, that being disclaimed, whatever. But and it would give the episode away, but there is an episode, I'll just like leave it at that, of like the spectating part of justice, of like social justice, which makes things all the more interesting and all the more challenging. And so I think that we do have to think about, okay, what is our common cause and justice together? What can I truly contribute? And also like just a healthy perspective of like, we do need to pick up the cause of someone who might have been mistreated, and to see that them have their day in court as well. Now, it sounds like this is going to be like the third or fourth. Is this the fourth or the third different trial for this guy? Like it's been an interesting process, but he might be for the rest of his life, like some public interest, almost like a rock star status of someone who's a convicted felon, And so it's kind of an interesting piece in this ongoing connection of justice and social media. And what does it mean for us as people not directly involved with this case? Like what sort of leverage can we have to help this guy in regards to getting a fair trial for himself? So anyways, I don't know, man, like that's all the things that come to my mind when I think about he's got another day in court once again.
Yep. I think our sense of justice, like just the fact that, we pick a handful of things that we like to argue about, right? Like the kind of hot button political issues. But really, when you think about it, when it comes to justice, most of the world has basically the same common denominator of justice, right? Everybody wants justice. However, they, certain things settle out. So to me, that's another one of those things that like that sense of justice came from God, right? And like the Bible is clear that God is a God of justice. And also he spent a lot of time about, care for those in prison and care for those who were mistreated. So anyway, it's also just a interesting religion and theological thing for us to wrestle with. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just it's a compelling thing to continue to talk about again and again. And it's unfortunately, I think it's one of these things where we don't think much about it until like it touches our life personally, and maybe we're not required to. Like I don't know. Like do we need to give ourselves bags and bags full of anxieties? I don't know, but I think the older that we get, I think the more that when we experience life, I think that I would hope that we trend towards wanting to see more fairness, more equality and those things like that, because of the life experience that we had. And some of these issues begin to land on our radar when before it wasn't ever on our radar. And so I just think that it'll be interesting to see what happens from here. And it'd be good to kind of get some people's takes on it, from who've like listened to the podcast and who, from a experiential, like practical standpoint, or also from a theoretical, like how does justice include all of us, even though the case isn't directly involving us? I think it'd be kind of a cool further discussion to have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that. Maybe there'll be a couple special episodes of Serial coming. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. So
that's right.
Okay, Joe, we're getting close to 25 minutes. We're going to break our promise unless we breeze through this last one at least a little.
Sorry,
but no, it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the clothing and lifestyle brand Patagonia is also trending this morning.
All right.
I don't own anything from Patagonia. I probably can't afford it, but they're trending this morning because the news broke that their CEO of the company is basically letting go of all of his shares of the company. He's giving a lot of them away, and instead that money is going to go towards again, like climate change issues. That's something that he's really passionate about, and that kind of fits with their brand, kind of being an outdoorsy brand. So he's given up a lot of money, giving it to research and organizations who are kind of fighting some of those causes. So I thought that was interesting, Joe. We live in this era where there's the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezoses and these guys who have just a ton of money. And then we have guys like this. We also have CEOs who just give up a ton of money to try to help a cause. So again, we've talked about this before. When you hear about this, money's complicated, wealth is complicated, capitalism is complicated, but it's kind of just, for me, it's kind of encouraging and helpful to see, like, yeah, there's a lot of people with a lot of money, but some of these guys are doing their best to try to do good with it. So what are your thoughts on that today?
Here, just a couple of thoughts. I think number one, like I've been thinking about leadership this week. I mean, in the church, we are always looking for leaders. We want to be better leaders ourselves. I think Lynn Sweet said, like, leaders are not born or made, but they're summoned. I find that to be more true than not, where it's not like somebody's created to be a leader and they're just kind of like waiting in the on deck circle for an issue to lead. But leaders tend to be like summoned in the midst of an issue or a problem or an emergency, and it calls people into being and to be leaders. And so when I hear this guy obviously feels quite compelled to get in the middle of all this. And he seems like more than just like, hey, we're going to give a portion of our corporate dollars. He's like, no, I want to personally get invested in this. And so I applaud him for that, because I think it's looking outside of himself. He's trying to strengthen other initiatives out there. And so I think of leadership when I think about this. And I think also too, when towards the end, you talked about money and what we do with money, how complicated it is. Ever since biblical times, there's always been two equities. There's been like financial equity and then social equity, right? People can stockpile financial equity by making wise business decisions or stealing it, whatever, and they can add to their financial equity. Social equity is afforded to people by what they do for the collective good. And so I think this guy he's at a crossroads. He's like, okay, I can let go of my financial equity in order to create some social good. And so he will be remembered for that more than how much his net worth was. And he had to make that call. Like, he didn't have to do this. Like, no one is forcing him to, that we know of. And so it'd be interesting to kind of take him out to lunch if he was open for something like that, and say, okay, like, when you came to that crossroads, why'd you go this direction instead of this direction? And that'd be kind of a fun story to hear. So that's what I think of when I think of something like this.
And I think for us too, like, my level of wealth is so different from his or Bezos or whoever. To me, it's kind of like, okay, I don't have enough money to build a rocket ship, and I also can't, like, it's not realistic for me to give away all that I own. Like, if I was to give away my entire salary, I couldn't really I'd be a burden to someone else if I did that, right? So yeah, one of my next thoughts is like, how can we, like normal people, normal salaries, what does this look like for us to think about that? And how we can't be as extravagant in our expenses or in our generosity, but how can we still model both like financial stewardship and generosity when our incomes are just very normal levels? You know what I mean? Do you wrestle with that? Like, when you hear stories like this, that's one of my first thoughts is, what does this mean for me? How can I do something similar on a much lower scale? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so there's one of the first discipleship manuals that we have in Life at the Church is called the Didache, which is the teaching. And there's like two statements that we may have mentioned this before, but I think about this, like for those of us who really we want to be generous, and we are, but we're not at the level that some of these folks are. The Didache says to give without a grudge. Like basically, like when you give something, don't scrutinize over how it's used, but just give it away and allow it to do its own work. But also we should allow our alms to sweat on our palms. So to really scrutinize how we want to give to, so that we know we're giving to something that is that aligns with our values. And so I would say for those of us who are being generous, but we know we can't give it all away, I would just say like we have to be eager to give, but also like we can research the mess out of something before we give it away, knowing that it's actually adding to the things that we care about the most. The book of Ecclesiastes says to cast your bread upon the waters and to return to you in many days. And I think that is also a principle of scripture, which says is we should be generous people because we know that it creates a wake in the world, but it also returns something to us. Now, it may not be financial blessing or some sort of like direct apples to apples, but it is like we do get some sort of I don't know, like something is added to our lives because of it. And then our Lord says that it's better to give than it is to receive. And so why not like test him in that and see what happens when we can be generous in our own way to the needs of the world around us. So those are a couple of thoughts that I have.
Yeah, good. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, man. I think we did it. I think we stayed under 25, but we're getting close. So apparently those are our options, 90 seconds or 20 minutes. That's just where we land, apparently. So
I guess so, man. You bring out some of these good things to talk about though. Like you don't have anything Patagonia. Like how can you be a millennial and not have anything Patagonia?
I'm a very cheap millennial. So that's how.
There's ways to get it, man. So here's the deal. Like I as our trending viewers know, like Roger Federer, no, like I'll try to get you some pink sauce that we've covered.
Yeah.
But like I got refunded because I think the pink sauce shop got folded up because of FDA regulations or something like that. And so I still owe you a birthday gift from, your birthday. So like maybe something like Patagonia related will come your way for like birthday and Christmas, like combined. I don't know.
You don't need to get me anything. It's great. I didn't get you anything for your birthday either. So we're even.
Man, I'm just worried about you losing your millennial card because you don't have anything Patagonia. Okay. Like
I've got plenty of millennial points stashed up, I think.
All right, man. All
right. We got to go. We're running out of time. So
all right, man.
Joe, that was a really good conversation. Thanks for your thoughts today. Thanks to you for watching. Always, we're so grateful for you. We've heard from a lot of people this week that you guys watched the past couple of weeks. We're grateful for all you guys tuning in. So thank you. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and we hope to see you Sunday here at Ridgepoint.
See you next time.
Great day, great weekend. See you guys.